I'm Alex Bowman, and you're watching 3 Wide Life.
Hey there, I'm Megan Kolb and welcome to 3 Wide Life, where we go behind the scenes in the motorsports world and hang out with your favorite drivers. Today we have an awesome show for you. We're hanging out in Concord, North Carolina with a driver who has had a whirlwind of a career at a young age. Right now we have our very own Mike Garrity sitting down at Hendrick Motorsports with the talented Alex Bowman to learn more about his journey in the sport.
Alex, take me all the way back. How did you get started in this insane sport we call motorsports?
I started racing quarter midgets when I was 7. My dad was a big race fan and brought one home one day and kind of went from there. So been really lucky along the way. Met a lot of crazy people that are crazy enough to let me drive their race cars. But raced sprint cars and midgets as a kid. A lot of midget stuff, running USAC, a lot of pavement stuff and some dirt as well. And got hurt really bad in 2010, decided stock car racing was probably the right path to go. So did that in 2011 and ran the East Series, ran the ARCA Series and Xfinity, and now in the Cup Series.
So let's stick with the midgets and the sprint cars for a little while. What was your experience in those? I mean, what do you think that taught you car control wise, competition wise? How do you think that prepared you?
You know, on dirt, you're chasing a racetrack that's changing every single lap, and you have to be super on your toes and really adapting to the racetrack. You're never going to have a perfect race car for a 30-lap feature on dirt. The track's going to change way too much. Your car's not going to be there the whole time. At the same time, you have to learn a lot about your race car with all the in-car adjustments that those cars have, and shock adjusters, weight jackers, brake bias. I mean, you can dial yourself right in and you can dial yourself right out. So learned a lot about race cars that way, learned a lot about chasing a racetrack that way. And on the pavement side, I mean, the racing was so close. You'd have so many cars everywhere you went. If you were at IRP, you'd have 75 cars. So, I mean, running a 50-lap feature against 20 of the best guys ever in pavement midgets, I mean, that was some of the most fun I've ever had.
Now, you didn't have a spotter in those cars and you didn't have mirrors, so how do you think that helped you? Do you think some of that transfers over, like being able to feel and hear cars around you and clear yourself and things like that?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of feel, you know. You definitely, I guess growing up without it, you don't realize that you're missing it. I mean, the first time I got a midget, I was 14 and really didn't realize that I was missing it. I think after running a stock car for 5 years and going back to Chili Bowl last year, I was like, oh man, am I clear? Like, it's a lot different, but you know, it's definitely a different feeling that you have and a different confidence that you have to clear yourself to people. But there's also a lot more of kind of a respect that you give other guys too. I mean, you don't just clear yourself and put somebody in a really bad situation. In a cup car, you have a lot of guys that are clear by an inch and they'll just move up right in front of the guy. And you tend to give guys a little bit more room in the open wheel stuff, but I think it's just a little bit more mutual respect that all those guys have.
So when you started to transition over to the full-bodied stock cars, I'm sure there was a learning curve there. What was the biggest thing that you struggled with?
Really qualifying was really hard for me at first. When I ran an East car, I'd qualified horrible every single week, and I don't know if it was 100% me or the race car or what we struggled with there that year, but man, we were awful. Like, we would qualify like 16th and run second. Like, it didn't make any sense, but struggled with that all year. And when I went ARCA racing, we had a bunch of poles and track records, so I guess it just clicked or whatever and figured it out, and then a couple Xfinity poles and been qualifying up front in the Cup car this year. So, but that was the biggest thing for me to adapt to at first.
In terms of car control, I know guys like Jeff Gordon and Casey Kane, they've talked about how if they could go back to the open wheel stuff, they've learned so much about, like, let's say tire management or race management, when to turn it on, when to not turn it on. Did you have that right off the bat, or did you kind of drive the wheels off the stock car and have to back some of that up a little bit?
My first national midget race was night before the 500, so a 50-lap feature at IRP, and you definitely have to save your tires there. So between races like that and Turkey Night and running longer dirt shows like the Hut 100 where it takes rubber and you got to save your right rear a little bit. It definitely, I learned that right off the bat, especially even through the East Series. I mean, you have, when I ran, they didn't have the mandatory pit stop, so you had one set of tires for the whole race, and you're on places like Greenville Pickens, and you just destroy your tires. So a lot of tire management that I learned through there. And when I got to the Cup Series, I feel like you drive a lot harder all race than you did and stuff like that. There's really not a time in the Cup race that guys just chill out. I mean, there's a few places that it happens, but most of the time you're getting all you can get.